It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Support for this podcast comes from Invent Together. I bet you didn't know that inventing activity by Black inventors peaked in 1899, and it has never recovered. Black and Hispanic college graduates patented half the rate of white college graduates. That's just one of the reasons why you need to know about Invent Together. When our patent system gets more diverse, our nation will get stronger and more successful. Find out how you can help diverse inventors and unleash economic opportunity at inventtogether.org.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome in to the Locked On Reds podcast. It's game day. We have game action coming up tonight. Reds and Brewers. Get your pacemakers ready. Get your beers and wines and whatever it is that you need to cope with what's about to happen, because it's going to be a stressful 3 days, but hopefully a good kind of stressful if we get some wins. We're going to talk about that later on, though. We've got a Daytona Tortugas update with the voice of the Tortugas. Justin Rock joins me today to talk about what's going on down by the beach down in Single A. And before we get into all of that, though, you know we got to roll that graphic.
It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It's good to be talking some baseball on a baseball game day. I'm your host, Jeff Carr. Thanks for finding the Locked On Reds podcast here. If you don't already, make sure you're subscribed right here on the YouTube channel, or if you're listening on the podcasting app, make sure you're following me there. And you can find me on Twitter at Jeff Carr with 3 Fs, and find the show at Locked On Reds. All right, I want to bring him in. He is the voice of the Tortugas. He is Justin Rock. Justin, how is everything going today? I mean, I'm sure the weather is just awful down in Florida. Probably nothing to write home about. You know, how's everything going?
Everything's going well, Jeff. Thanks so much for having me on. Right now in Daytona Beach, luckily blue skies above, no clouds to be seen. A little on the humid side, as you could imagine, as we get towards the middle and now towards the back end of the month of July. But thankfully, the weather is clear, the track is fast, and we should have some baseball here at the Jack tonight.
It's always good to hear. I know that there's some rain in the forecast up here, but there's been rain in the forecast for like the last 3 weeks, but that's Ohio. Let's talk about things that aren't the weather. Let's talk about this Daytona Tortuga side. Lots and lots of prospects, but also lots of guys that have been on and off the injured list. I know that the roster's kind of been in turmoil because of that. How has Gookie Dawkins and the managerial crew kind of gone through with this fluctuation?
It's been tough, especially early in the season. It seemed a lot of it happened, I'd say, in the first month and a half of this 2021 campaign. And a lot of it's been, if not all of it, sort of been just freak injuries, stuff that, you know, things that you really didn't see coming, just awkward plays, just tough luck with guys going down here and there. Christian Roa, I mean, started right out of the gates. Christian Roa, first game of the season, first inning. Felt something wrong, left, was sent back to Arizona, actually just came back and made his Jackie Robinson ballpark debut on Wednesday. Bryce Bonin, team flew into town from Arizona. Something didn't go right in his first bullpen, and he went on the injured list to start the year. And then, of course, the injuries to Tyler Callahan and Rhys Hines happened within a span of about a half an hour of one another in the same game. Tyler Callahan made an outstanding play to his right, got up to his feet, threw to first, and felt something wrong in his arm. He's been on the injured list with a right elbow strain ever since. And same thing with Rhys Hines, got on base, slid into second base. Everything seemed fine, but ended up with a small tear in his meniscus in his left knee. And, you know, the Tortugas have done an amazing job at finding ways to stay competitive and be right in the thick of a playoff push, it feels like. Here now into the back half of the 2021 season, just past the halfway point here in the minor leagues. And it's been impressive. A lot of guys have been thrust into roles that they weren't expecting to be in, particularly in the starting rotation. Guys like Carson Rudd, James Proctor were ticketed to be in the bullpen for us to start the year and had to slide into starting roles. And unfortunately, both of them have been on the injured list now for the last couple weeks or so. But the good thing is it seems like the team is getting healthier, particularly on the pitching side. Bryce Bonin and Christian Roa are back. Evan Kravitz, who's been on the mend, has made a couple of rehab starts out in Arizona, and we would look forward to hopefully getting him back sometime in the not-too-distant future. But they've done a marvelous job finding ways to stay competitive considering all the injuries that have sort of thrown a curveball into this 2021 season.
In the time that you've got to see him before they kind of hit the injured list, and in Austin Hendricks' case after he came off the injured list, I know it's not been the longest period of time, but how have they looked in your estimation?
I thought Tyler Callahan looked really good. He showed really good bat-to-ball skills, played a really nice defensive second base, in my personal opinion. The big thing for Tyler that was really impressive was, especially in this day and age, and especially this year, with the lack of a minor league season in 2020, it feels like the strikeouts have been up, and he was towards the top of the league and definitely still far and away on the team right now with the best strikeout percentage, just a little bit around like 12, 13% of his plate appearances were strikeouts, which was good, especially for low A Southeast. Rhys Hines, I think he was just banged up off and on before he had that tough injury that really ended his season. I started traveling on the road until Hines was on the mend. But most of his best stuff happened on the road. Hit 3 home runs the first of the year over in Palm, one during the St. Louis. But he was really impressive offensively at third base, and you could just see the power that he has when he makes contact on the ball. It just sounds so much different coming off his barrel than as opposed to players. But he was mighty impressive, and they're just both really, really good kids first and foremost. And we're looking forward to seeing them get healthier and hopefully get back to doing what they do best sooner rather than later.
I know at the beginning of the season, whenever Major League Baseball announced all the different changes and things like that to minor leagues and the way that different teams are going to be ran and how many affiliations there were and things like that, there was a weird flip-flop between Dayton and Daytona. What have you noticed from that here, as you mentioned, about halfway through the season in Daytona?
It's funny you say that because, there's always been this joke, that Daytona and Dayton and how it's so closely, compared with the names. And, of course, being level separated. Actually, after all the changes, our call letters got changed on MILB.com. So we were both DAY for a little while. And there's an email to say, can we get that changed a little bit so people actually know when they're going from one level to another when they're checking out the stats on MILB.com and beyond. But, the changes this year, there has been some differences. I think particularly because there's been a lack of rookie ball, no more Appalachian League, no more Pioneer League in the Reds minor league farm system. But I think the biggest change in terms of the quality of the play and, maybe just the way the game is played here has been just the result of the lack of a 2020 season. A lot of these guys were developing at home, trying to find different ways to stay in shape, and everyone's experience was different. From the person sitting to the left of them and to the right of them. So I think those have been some of the big differences we've seen so far this year. The time of game, the pace of play has significantly slowed down, particularly in this league, whether that's because of with the pickoff rule, they got rid of the pitch clock down here in low A Southeast. So there's no, set time for guys to get into the box or for pitchers to be on the mound ready to throw the ball at home plate. So that's been the biggest difference. The time of game has gone up. Low A Southeast has one of the longest time of games in all of baseball this year, where, in 2019 in the Florida State League, in the old iteration, we probably played some of the quickest games in the league. So I think that's more related to the lack of a 2020 season. And I think what we see next year in 2022 will be a better indicator for what low A Southeast will look like long term.
Well, I've got some questions regarding maybe not necessarily names that people know off of prospect lists and things like that. And there's a great promotion coming up this weekend at Jackie Robinson Field that I want to get into. Before we get into that, though, I wanted to let you know that you can get into a Built Bar. When you go to BuiltBar.com, you, Justin, too, and the people watching can go to BuiltBar.com and use the promo code LOCKED15. You'll save 15% off your next order. It's the best tasting protein bar on the market. I can't keep them in my house. That's why I don't have any right now, because I ate them all. You can check out my favorite flavor, Cherry Barcia. They've got coconut that tastes pretty much exactly like a Mounds bar, but we're talking about like less than 4 grams of net carbs, less than 4 grams of sugar, and up to 17, sometimes 18 grams of protein. They are way better than any other bar on the market when you're talking about protein bars. They get all chalky and just taste generally awful. That's not the way with Built Bar. Check them out today at BuiltBar.com and use the promo code LOCKED15 to save 15% off your next order.
It's time to become a better. BetQL rates every potential bet on a scale of 1 to 5 stars based on real, proven analytics.
Who am I going to trust? I'm going to trust the randos on Twitter versus the app that's telling me, hey, listen, we've run this simulation 9 gazillion times, and it's coming up as 5 stars. You're really going to have a better opportunity to win if you put your money here.
Bet smarter and beat the books with BetQL. Save 20% with promo code PODCAST. That's 20% off with promo code PODCAST at BetQL.com.
Alrighty. With the season going on and the moves that have been made to kind of keep the roster afloat with all these different entries, there's got to be some guys who have stepped up. I've noticed that Michael Triana's been doing pretty good. I think Triana, and then Yvonne Johnson and guys like that. Who has been somebody that you're not seeing on a prospect list right now for the Reds, but has really made some noise in Daytona?
There's quite a few names, particularly in different spots. I'll start with the bullpen. The bullpen, I think the best way to describe it is Kyle Bodie's Island of Misfit Toys. Guys from very different and very unique backgrounds, but have found ways to dominate. There's Stevie Branch, 24-year-old kid out of Division III Rochester Institute of Technology. And he's been hitting at 98, 99 miles an hour with his fastball. I think he's topped out at 99.4 so far this season. And his strikeout rate and his strikeouts per innings pitched is just absolutely absurd. I mean, he's near the top 10 in the league in strikeouts, and he's pitching out of the bullpen and throwing, at most maybe 2-3 innings at a time. And he's, predominantly been sort of our 1B closer over the course of the last couple of weeks. But another big name is one of the best stories you'll ever hear in baseball with Vin Tipinelli, who's been our closer over the course of the last couple months, leads the league in saves, has the lowest batting average against in all of minor league baseball, one of the lowest batting average on balls in play in all of minor league baseball. And the Reds found him in a men's league last summer playing in New Jersey as a catcher. He was from Division III Ramapo College in Northeast New Jersey, not far away from where I grew up in Mahwah, New Jersey. Lee Saris, one of the Red Scouts, found him. They moved him into the bullpen. He's still actually listed as a catcher in the Reds 2021 media guide. And he's got a mid-90s fastball. His fastball has reached as high as 98 and a devastating slider. And he's been absolutely remarkable out of the bullpen. And those two guys have really been some of the stalwarts at the back end of games. But Daniel Veohin, the catcher, he's not on any prospect lists. He's been pretty impressive, particularly behind the plate, one of the best caught stealing rates in all of minor league baseball. I think it's just a tick below 50% of all base stealers have been caught this season, to the point where, in Low A Southeast this year with the pickoff rule, stolen bases have been up. But if you look at the stats overall, you compare what Daytona has given up in terms of stolen bases to other teams, it's in a different stratosphere. Because not just Veohin, he and his teammates have done a great job of keeping base runners at bay and keeping them right where they are. And another name offensively to keep in mind, also staying with the catching position, is Garrett Woolforth, who, as of Wednesday, had a 27-game on-base streak, got snapped, had an 11-game hitting streak last month, a 12-game hitting streak snapped earlier this week as well. And he's really settled in nicely into various spots in Daytona's order. And Also want to give a shout out to one of our players as well, Gus Steiger, who was an undrafted free agent signee last summer out of South Dakota State, who's played every position for Daytona so far this year except for first base and catcher, and has basically hit pretty much everywhere in the order outside of third and cleanup. And he had no anticipation of playing outfield this season and has done a really nice job playing some roles in center, right, and they found ways to get him in the lineup every day. But those are 3, 4, 5 guys that aren't on any prospect lists right now, but may want to keep your eyes on as they continue to climb the ladder.
I'm going to remember that name, Veoheen. That sounds amazing. That's a really epic. I feel like he should be a hockey goalie with that name. It's
funny you say that. The nickname for him around the organization has been El Receptor, as a native of Colombia. So he's got a pretty darn good nickname to go along with it as well. So we'll see what happens with him as he continues to climb.
I love hearing that, and especially when you're talking about the future at catcher. I know that the Reds have an option for Tucker Barnhart this season, but if they don't pick that up, and even past that, you're looking at guys like Veoheen here in the coming future could be up on the major leagues. I love to hear that. Real quick too, before we get wrapping up here, I wanted to ask you, what led to being the Daytona Tortugas broadcast? I feel like I've practiced saying that a million times and I still trip over it, but what's led you to get to this point in your career?
Thankfully, through a lot of hard work. Like with any career, it's a lot about who you know and sort of being in the right place at the right time. I've been all over the place. My first job was in this league for the old Brevard County Manatees in 2014. I worked for the Tennessee Smokies Cubs affiliate for a couple years in 15 and 16. Which was a lot of fun. Then spent a couple years in the Appy League. I've been all around the NL Central affiliate-wise. The Pirates are the only team that haven't hired me yet. But I worked for Johnson City with the Cardinals in 2017, and really the job that got me to where I am right now was 2018, working when the Reds returned to the Appy League in Greenville, Tennessee. And that was actually my first experience working with our manager, Gookie Dawkins, our hitting coach, Darryl Brinkley. This is actually the third different time I've worked with one of our development coaches, Reggie Williams. Worked with him in 2018, actually my first year working in baseball in Brevard. He was one of our assistant coaches as well. 3 amazing people, 3 of the best people you can ask to be around. And sort of through that connection with Greenville in 2018, that same year, Luke Morrow, who was the voice here in Daytona, got a job as the broadcaster up in South Carolina as the lead voice of the Citadel. One of the military academies out there in South Carolina, and was able to get connected to the right people and slid in here in Daytona for that 2019 season. And 3 of the 4 guys that were in our infield that year have already made it up to the major leagues and are already making impacts left and right throughout the Red system. So it's been a blast being here, especially considering all the history and just all the baseball players that have come through Jackie Robinson Ballpark, dating back to when it opened, believe it or not, in 1914.
I know that there were a lot of people, and you had mentioned one of the infielders, and he is a dude that is setting the world on fire in the majors, and that's Jonathan India. That's a guy that whenever people saw his numbers in the Florida State League, I think they immediately wrote him off. And I know that there are plenty of people, obviously the Reds, since he's in the major leagues now, didn't give up on him. Whenever you were watching him and seeing those numbers, were you kind of thinking to yourself like, yeah, there's more to this guy than meets the eye?
Yeah, I mean, I was blessed. I got to work with Jonathan right out of the gate. I was with him his first stop after he signed at the University of Florida in Greenville, Tennessee for a couple weeks. Got to call his first professional home run. And then got to be reunited with him the very next year, right back here in Daytona Beach. And you knew he always had it in him. You wonder a little bit at times in 2019, considering he was playing in his home state of Florida, not too far away from where he went to college. Maybe potentially a case of maybe putting too much pressure on himself to try and perform. And you also have to remember, look at where he's playing right now in the major leagues. He was playing a totally different position. Down here in Daytona Beach. He wasn't taking ground balls at second base down here until the halfway point of that 2019 season, was predominantly at third. And they were thinking of even keeping him at shortstop at times early on in his minor league career. So I think some of that uncertainty led to that. And the other factor that, some people sometimes forget to keep in mind is in the old Florida State League, now Low A Southeast. These are all, major league spring training complexes. And the fact of the matter is, we're playing outdoors here in Florida with the humidity, all the water that's sort of in the air. The ball just doesn't travel as well as it does in different leagues across the United States in terms of the minors. So that sort of quells a little bit of the numbers. Balls that he might have been driving out of the ballpark, in Chattanooga or Louisville were, dying on the warning track, the things like that. But you could just tell the way he played and the way he composed himself as a player that, if all the tools and all the things sort of broke the right way, it would all sort of come together for Jonathan. But the best thing that I can say about Jonathan, and from what I've heard from other people as well, was I think something, not once it something happened, but during the course of the pandemic, he took a lot of young players under his wing and really helped them. I mean, we talked about Reese Hines and Tyler Callahan a little bit earlier on in the podcast, and spoke to both of them before they went down with injuries. And they said, well, they were at the alternate site last year at Prasco Park in Ohio. Jonathan Indy was one of the guys that really took them under his wing and taught them how to, attack things professionally as a hitter, how to be a professional baseball player. And I think that spoke to the kind of professionalism and the kind of things Jonathan learned his first 2 years in minor league ball. And obviously that type of leadership and that kind of mentality has done wonders, not just for the minor league system, but for the Reds up in the major league level in 2021 too.
That's awesome, because it's been a joy to watch him. He's been a spark for this team. He and Tyler Stevenson have just been amazing whenever they're up to the plate. And I saw a stat that I want to shout out. Past guest on the podcast, Joel Luckup, shared that the best by far OBP for a rookie in the leadoff spot has been Jonathan India so far this season at 430. I mean, he's getting on base at a crazy clip, and you love to see that because that's like Shin-Soo Choo-ian numbers when it comes to leading off. And, man, I appreciate your time. I've had you a little bit longer than I asked you for, so I'm sorry about that. But real quick, before we let you go, I wanted to ask you about this. There's a great promotion coming up this Saturday at Jackie Robinson Ballpark. And I am a huge fan of The Office. So my question is this: why wasn't it Prison Mike? But I do like Recyclops, don't get me wrong.
I think part of the reason we did the Recyclops instead of the Prison Mike thing is actually I was talking with Doug Gray of RedsMinorLeagues.com a little while ago, and there had been some Recyclops-style bobbleheads done throughout minor league baseball, and I think they were all sort of in the vein of Prison Mike and something like that. So us with the Daytona Tortugas, we're always looking for ways to do things that, not necessarily have been done before, but trying to put new spins on things and, be a little bit different than what everyone else is sort of doing. And that's where, the Recyclops bobblehead came in. Actually, it was supposed to be a part of our promotional schedule last year in 2020. So these have been sort of sitting in the humidor, ready and waiting to go for quite some time. And thankfully, this weekend, this Saturday, first 1,000 fans through the gates here at the Jack will get their hands on a Recyclops bobblehead courtesy of bowlingball.com. And we're really excited. It's our first bobblehead giveaway of the season. And I think it's just a small sign now that, we're halfway through this minor league season. Everyone in minor league baseball are really getting back to doing what they do best, whether it's the minors or now the new iterations of the Appy and Pioneer League that were in minor league baseball. The last time there was the season, it's just it's great to see everything beginning to get back in full swing in the minor leagues. And for us, part of that is Recyclops bobblehead coming up on Saturday. So if you're around Daytona Beach, get here early because they'll be going fast.
I wish I could be down there. That's awesome, Justin. Sir, I appreciate you coming on. This is the first time getting my chance to talk to you, and I hope I get to talk to you again soon.
Absolutely. Anytime you need me, I'll be here, Jeff.
Hey, thank you, Justin. All right, coming up, we are going to take a look at this Reds Brewers series that is starting tonight, and it's kind of just a continuation of those last 4 games. I really look at it as a 7-game series. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. Before we talk about that series, though, I wanted to tell you about betonline.ag. It is the only online sports book that I trust and you should too. They've got great lines when it comes to Major League Baseball. They've got the NBA finals. They've got NFL futures that are coming up. All of that great stuff can be wagered upon at betonline.ag. And when you go there today, set up your profile and type in the promo code locked on. You'll get 50% added onto your initial deposit. That means you put in 100, they'll give you an extra 50 just for typing in this promo code. And I'll give you a tip. I try to do this every so often. I have different thoughts about different games, and I have a really strong feeling. You're going to think this is crazy, but the Dodgers are in Colorado. I have told you about the voodoo magic of the Colorado Rockies at Coors Field. I think it continues tonight. They've got Antonio Senzatella on the mound against Julio Urias. I think that the Rockies get the win. The Rockies are sitting at plus 170 on the money line, so a little bit of value too if you take them. I'm taking the Rockies, and you should too. So go over to betonline.ag, set up your profile, type in the promo code locked on. You'll get 50% more on your initial deposit and put some money down on the Rockies plus 170 to beat the Los Angeles Dodgers. That's betonline.ag and the promo code locked on.
This episode is brought to you by HP Plus. In a world full of smart devices, shouldn't your printer be smart too? It is with HP Plus. These printers know when they're running low, so you always get the ink you need delivered right when you need it. Plus, you save up to 50% on ink, so you can print whatever you want, as much as you want, anytime you want. Huh, that is pretty smart. Get 6 free months of instant ink when you choose HP Plus. Conditions apply. Visit hp.com/smart for details.
Excuse me there. All right, let's talk about this series. The Reds and Brewers are back at it. Those 4 games in Milwaukee were everything. They were a pressure cooker, pressure pack, just absolute sweating. You never felt like either team had control of the game literally until the last out. And the fact that the Reds beat Josh Hader on back-to-back nights, that dude's going to be pissed. So if the Brewers get a lead and they get into the bullpen, Josh Hader's going to be thrown with a little extra oomph tonight. You can bet on that. It's going to be interesting to see how this series plays out because the Brewers have only announced their probable starter for tonight. We've got Tyler Mahle going up against Adrian Hauser tonight. You figure that the Reds will see some form of Brandon Woodruff and Corbin Burns Saturday and Sunday. I bet it's Woodruff on Saturday, Burns on Sunday, since Burns pitched in the All-Star game. That way they give him like a normal amount of rest. But the Reds have yet to see Corbin Burns, and they're only playing 6 more games against the Brewers. There's no chance that they go through an entire season without playing against one of their best pitchers, right? I would think so anyway. But the Reds are throwing the top of the tippy top of the rotation this weekend. You've got Tyler Mahle on Friday, Luis Castillo on Saturday, and Sonny Gray on Sunday. I can't wait. I'm going to be down at the ballpark tonight watching that Mahle versus Hauser matchup. And a quick thought about Hauser, because he's pitched against the Reds 3 times already this year. And when you look at those 3 times, he has given up his first outing against the Reds at Great American Ballpark back on May 10th. He gave up 6 earned runs, 3 of them off homers, 1 home run by Tyler Naquin, and 2 by Jesse Winker. That was one of Jesse Winker's 3 home run games during the first half of the season. And that was just a phenomenal performance by those 2 guys. And then the next couple of ones, he's actually the Brewers are 2-1 in the 3 starts that he's made against the Reds. Now, he's not kept the scoreboard clean in all of them. In fact, he's given up 3 total runs and at least 3 total runs in all 3 of his starts. A couple of them were unearned in some cases, but at least 3 total runs in each start. So the Reds can put some stuff on the board. So how does Tyler Mahle bounce back from his last outing? Because his last outing, he was not very pitch efficient. And he even said so in the postgame. He's like, I was trying to throw too much junk early on, and I hadn't established a good strike zone yet. So guys weren't chasing. They weren't biting on the bad pitches. So you can expect he's going to be a little bit more conservative with his pitches and try to establish that strike zone to the hitters early on, and then work in his junk stuff later on, the splitter, the curveball, things like that. So I'm looking for a good night tonight. I'm not going to say one way or the other, but can you imagine, just for a minute, I know we are Cincinnati sports fans, and allowing ourselves to think about the best case scenario isn't really in our nature. But for a moment, can you imagine on Monday when the Mets get to town if the Reds sweep the Brewers? I just got chills thinking about that. I don't know. This is going to be a tough series. The Brewers are a good team. The Reds beat them 3 out of 4, and they swept them the series before that. So we're all thinking like, man, the Brewers, they are still a very talented team. Make no mistake about it, though. The Reds are a good team, too. This is going to be another fun 3 games, and there's only 6 left against the Brewers. So the time to make some hay is this weekend. So go make some hay, Reds. Go make some wins, more importantly. And let's see where we're at on Monday. We'll be talking all about that, recapping this series that I'm sure is going to be filled with drama, lots of things to get to. You're not going to want to miss it. Make sure the best way to not miss anything is to subscribe right here to the YouTube page. Also, follow me on Twitter at Jeff Carr with 3 Fs, and follow the show at Locked On Reds, and follow the podcast on your favorite podcasting app. Also, get on the Locked On Reds line, 513-549-0159. You can call it. You can text it with questions, comments, reactions, whatever you've got. Also, shout out, there was a question that I noticed on the Locked On Reds line asking about probable starters because they wanted to go see Graham Ashcraft in Chattanooga. You can check out each team's webpage. If you go to ChattanoogaLookouts.com, I think it's like milb.com/Chattanooga Lookouts or something like that. Just Google Chattanooga Lookouts. They'll have the probable starters for, so far as they're announced, on their webpage. So you can figure out what days you can go to see the specific guys you want to see. And that's the best way to do that. But all right, that's going to wrap us up for today. Now, tell your smart device to go play the Locked On MLB podcast. Sully, Paul Francis Sullivan, but please call him Sully, has a wealth of knowledge of baseball, present and past, and he imparts it to you each and every day. You can find the Locked On MLB podcast wherever you get your podcast, but that'll do it. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Thanks to Justin for talking some Tortugas with me, and we'll see each and every one of you on Monday.